Welcome, class of 2023. Students, faculty, trustees, welcome to absolutely beautiful Newport on what couldn't be a better day. I'm glad that we didn't have yesterday. It's a true honor to be here with you all today as we mark the beginning of the journey of the class of 2023. As you all know, we live in an ever more rapidly changing world. When I embarked on my own journey as a freshman, the internet was in its infancy, and the iPhone hadn't yet been invented, believe it or not. Today, we each possess both a smartphone, smart computer, and a slot machine in our pocket. In some ways, our smartphones have become something that both bring the world's information to our fingertips, but also threaten our ability to focus and our ability to engage with the world around us. In some ways, it's like Charles Dickens said, "It was the best of times, it was the worst of times." Tools like Facebook connect communities unlike ever before in human history. Yet, in the platform's immense reach come threats to privacy and even our own democracy. So the promise of artificial intelligence, big data, autonomous vehicles, these all herald newfound efficiencies, convenience, and personalization. They're all very exciting things. But they also codify into code some of the biggest ethical challenges of our generation. In the continued relevance of the line from The Tale of Two Cities, which was written in 1859, we might recognize both the importance of history and the persistent value of literature, even in this era of technology. Truly, the more things change, the more things really remain the same. The more stock we put in the newness of technology, the more the most timeless questions actually come back to show their relevance in our world. So today, as we obsess over learning to code, we often forget that code is only as good as the context to which it's applied. Without an education in the arts and in the humanities, technology is without anchor to the true human problems. And without the social sciences or the study of our systems of interaction and collaboration around us, technology is without application to our world as exists around us. We think of technology as the timely thing, and the humanities as perhaps only timeless, something fit for dusty books and libraries, right? Wrong. Subjects like philosophy, psychology, and anthropology are of the most critical importance to our world today. Actually, at companies like Nissan, where they're attempting to build self-driving cars today, they recognize this requires a deep human understanding and not just technology understanding. It's no wonder, actually, that the leaders of their autonomous car division are actually anthropologists, believe it or not. In my job as a venture capitalist, where I meet with technology entrepreneurs on a daily basis, I actually play the role of psychologist. I'm trying to peer into their souls, figure out if they're telling me the truth, telling me something that I can trust. Across the table, they might look like business people or entrepreneurs, but in fact, they're in the role of a theater major. They're communicating their vision and their business ideas with charisma. And as William Shakespeare once said, all the world's a stage, right? We're all actors in this life. Never before have we needed thinkers who can navigate the world around us using the most timeless methods of inquiry and applying them to the most timely applications of our modern world. We put our faith in the objectivity of technology and the magic of computer code, but we forget that all of this is made by very fallible human beings, right? People with their own wants and needs, people with their own personal biases and blind spots. We presume that fanciful new words like big data mean we're on the path to right answers. 16th century philosopher Sir Francis Bacon actually asked the same thing. He said, with enough facts, we would no longer need the scientific method. With enough facts, he thought, maybe we wouldn't need to ask any more questions. We would simply have all the answers. Yet 400 years later, we're asking the same thing. Only now we call facts big data. We've just changed the words around. Again, it seems like the more things change, the more they actually remain the same. And it was Plato who once said that information is not the same as knowledge, is not the same as wisdom. We transform information into knowledge by asking smart questions. The greatest value of an institution like Salve is it is your safe space to experiment. It's your safe space to ask questions of yourself, of your faculty, of your peers, and believe it or not, even your parents. There are no dumb questions, and the only failure is not to try something, anything, while you're here. As the Apple founder Steve Jobs actually said at my college graduation, "Stay hungry, stay foolish." I love that line. So we find information in ones and zeros, but we discover wisdom in the human interpretation in how we ask questions, how we interrogate ideas, how we grapple in ambiguity. It was Voltaire who once said that we ought to judge a person by their questions, not by their answers. So in a world drowning in information, we are starved for wisdom. Because even though Google may contain all the world's information right there at our fingertips, it is still us sitting there before the blinking cursor, right? It's still us asking what it is we want to know. We decide. We ask the questions. We exist in the gray area, not in the black or white. The great value of the liberal arts is that it helps us refine our curiosity and grapple through this ambiguity that is real life. So as you embark on your 4 years here at Salve, the world around you will continue to change. In that change is the true excitement of opportunity, the ability to stitch together your passions in truly unique and powerful ways. This process of discovery is never a straight and narrow path. Much like Central Park in New York City, where landscape architect Frederick Law Olmsted designed every path to be curved through the park, this unfurling of your own passions is the most valuable thing you can bring and take away from your liberal arts education. In fact, we sit here today in this garden, which is also tied to the great work of Frederick Law Olmsted. Many people will tell you that you have to choose a path, and that that path must be straight and direct to a career or a job. Some people will tell you that your education is an investment, that you're here to find that career. Other people will tell you that education is actually an insurance policy. It's something that you fall back on in the future. And others will tell you that it's purely for consumption. It's just about enjoyment. The truth is that education is all of these things. It's a chance to get to know yourself and what you love to do. And in the nuance, in the overlaps of your passions, your particular passions, are insanely great opportunities. Take, for example, Katie Kwan. So my friend Katie, I met her in 2017. Katie's actually a trained ballerina who danced professionally at the Metropolitan in New York. But she also had a passion for robots. Now, people told Katie as a dancer, they said, "You have no business in robotics. You're not an engineer. You were trained as a ballerina. This isn't for you." But she pursued this overlap in worlds on her own. So she volunteered for a researcher in Illinois who was studying the intersection of ballet and robotics. And what she learned was that robots are often used in hospitals for end-of-life care, where trust is really difficult to have. Most people don't actually like hard plastic robots with jerky automatronic movements. But it turns out if you make a robot act a little bit more like a ballerina with graceful maneuvers, you can actually create trust with an older patient in a hospital. So today, Katie is actually a PhD in mechanical engineering, pursuing her passion of ballet and robotics. And she's actually one of the only robot choreographers on the planet. Pretty cool. So she combined her two passions for ballet and robotics and followed this curved path of her own journey. Or take, for example, Jessica Carbino. Jessica's in Los Angeles. She's a PhD sociologist from UCLA, and she got a job at Tinder. Go figure. She said, if I'm going to analyze data, it's going to be on right and left swipes. I'm going to figure out what you guys are all thinking. Or take Caitlin Gleason, who was a theater major and a Broadway actress before she decided to become CEO of a digital health startup. Caitlin recognized that her job as an actor was actually just to take the words on a page, the same words that were given to every person auditioning, and turn those into a story. And the person that turned them into the story in the most convincing way got the part. She realized that this was the exact same skill of being an entrepreneur. After all, the job of a CEO is the chief evangelist. You're the chief storyteller. Today, Caitlin's raised $25 million of investment, and she has 50 engineers who work for her. It's pretty cool. So Katie, Jessica, and Caitlin might all seem like they're unique stories that I cherry-picked from the world of Silicon Valley. But in fact, if you look around technology, many of the leading people at technology companies aren't in fact techies. Actually, Susan Wojcicki, any hands for YouTube watchers out there? So Susan, who's the CEO of YouTube, she studied history and literature. Or take, for example, LinkedIn, PayPal, Palantir, Slack. The founders and CEOs of all those companies are philosophers. The founders of Airbnb right down the street at RISD, they were designers. And even Alexis Ohanian, founder of Reddit and the husband to Serena Williams, who I think is still playing tennis, he studied history, right? So the paths that are unfurled before us are often curved and lead to very exciting things. The greatest opportunities are in the application of technology to the real world problems and how we take these tools and we apply them to the world around us. So how do you become familiar with both of these things while you're here at Salve these next 4 years? In 1959, Charles Percy Snow, C.P. Snow, he delivered a lecture at Cambridge that was known as his Two Cultures Lecture, where he lamented this growing chasm between the sciences and the humanities. He really lamented the fact that students came to study Shakespeare and they didn't know the first thing about physics, or they read biology and they'd never read James Joyce. And in fact, the sciences and the humanities are not mutually exclusive. They're not two things that should be on opposite sides of campus, or that you can only do one or the other. They must be explored equally. Today, the greatest opportunities that you'll find, I think, exist between this overlap of technology and the human experience. How can you take the things you know in tech and apply them to the problems that you see around your world? So the term liberal arts, as we often refer to, actually comes from the Latin phrase artis liberalis. Has nothing to do with art, has nothing to do with being liberal. One gains freedom through exposure to the breadth of disciplines. They're about unlocking new ideas through tugging on the mind in different ways. Not about picking a major as your destination and putting on the blinders and going straight to that place. It's about treating your education as a passport. So think about this for a moment. Rather than buying a plane ticket to a destination like computer science or comparative literature, you have a passport before you, and it's your job to put stamps in that passport from all different types of experiences, all different skill sets, all around campus with all different peers and all different professors. Think of this about exploring the globe like you would on an around-the-world plane ticket. So fill your passport with as many stamps as you can and travel to places that scare you. Engage, don't dismiss our ever-changing world of technology, but also root yourself in the humanities and in the arts, because they're the grounding, they're the historic, the cultural, the artistic, the philosophical looks inward at who we are as people and how we exist on this planet together. Because when we strip away the world and all of its pragmatism, all of its posturing for advancement, the humanities are actually what remain in the dark, in the disorienting strangeness of the human experience that we all have. They're our perennial guide, the timeless questions that we continue to ask even beyond the screen. In Madrid's Reina Sofia Museum, for some of you art history students or aspiring majors, there's the massive Guernica painting by Picasso. The painting depicts the horrors of war and splashes of black and white paint, but atop the middle of the painting in the center is a light bulb. It's actually technology from back in the day, believe it or not. And it shines light on and exposes this haunting and enduring quality of the human experience and human suffering. Technology changes form, but it's merely the lens through which we view ourselves, our habits, in our nature. So today, these things are called Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat. It's no different. They force us to grapple with underlying features of human yearning, intrigue, failure, circumstance. So technology is actually our mirror. It's just reflecting who we are as a society. So as you embark on this journey, I encourage you all to treat your education as a passport, not as a plane ticket to a particular destination. Let your aim these 4 years be to refine your curiosity. In a world obsessed with efficiency and convenience and personalization, allow yourself the grace to explore the unresolved, to wrestle with yourself and your passions. There's an immutability or resistance to forms like literature, history, philosophy, art, craftsmanship, storytelling, where we actually have to submit to these things rather than merely be entertained by them. So put down your phone and slow down these 4 years. Look around you at this incredible time and place when you guys are students in this absolute paradise of Newport. In a world of devices, invite analog things into your life to teach you about yourself. Succumb to the challenge of learning a foreign language. Invite the joy of mastering a musical instrument. Even if these things feel impractical, I assure you they are enriching. Wade midnight deep through the literature of another time and place, and force the adaptation upon yourself, not your tools. It's in this struggle that you'll find the grit, the empathy, and the ecstasis, or the ecstasy of actually standing outside of yourself and knowing something other than your own thoughts. Use your 4 years to ask questions and push newfound combinations that are uniquely you. Your curved path, like Katie's, Caitlin's, or anyone else's, is uniquely yours. Don't be afraid, because there isn't any failure. Welcome within yourself the true joy of this exploration. I'm really excited for you guys. Welcome, class of 2023, and congratulations.